is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
War in Ukraine, disaster in Turkey and Syria, and in East Africa, someone is dying from hunger every 48 seconds. The headlines might stop, but gold doesn't. By making a donation at gold.ie, you'll be helping those on the brink of survival around the world, because that's what goalies do. Thank you.
Every business is preparing for new opportunities. SkillNet Ireland helps you to understand the skills your business needs to reach its full potential. Continually strengthening your team will give your business the competitive edge. Think business. Think talent. Visit skillnetireland.ie/think talent for supports on developing your people. SkillNet Ireland is a business support agency of the Government of Ireland.
On 106 to 108 FM, on the News Talk app, powered by Go Loud, and smart speakers. This is News Talk.
This is Eamon Falvey. Good evening. US President Joe Biden is travelling to Ireland. President Biden is due to land in Belfast around now, where he'll be greeted by the British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak. He's due to address the Dáil later this week, but People Before Profit have announced a boycott of the sitting. The TD, Paul Murphy, says it's partially about not getting the usual right of reply to speeches given by foreign leaders.
We would want to give our opinion back to Joe Biden to condemn the policies of the US in terms of Israel, to condemn the policies of the US in relation to Saudi Arabia and Yemen, to condemn their lack of action in terms of climate change. And instead, we're being expected to just sit there silently, and then presumably the rest of the TDs and senators will be giving a standing ovation.
Stormy weather looks set to batter the country overnight. The southwest coast is expected to get the brunt of damaging gusts. The police in Northern Ireland say they've recovered 4 suspected pipe bombs from inside the city cemetery in the Cregan in Derry. They were found in the same place where paramilitary-style clothing was burned yesterday. The PSNI's Terrorism Investigation Unit will now take the lead on the case. The force says its officers again had petrol bombs, stones and bottles thrown at their vehicles today, but no one was injured. Change is never comfortable, but there is a need to review and reform the Leaving Cert. That's the view from Education Minister Norma Foley, responding to opposition voiced by teachers to potential changes to the format of the Leaving Cert English and Irish. At its national convention, the ASTI members voted against the proposed plans to hold paper 1 of these exams in 5th year. Minister Foley says unions' views will be heard before a decision is made.
Well, I think in the round, and I'd be very clear in relation to this, change is never comfortable. But there is a recognition, and indeed I want to acknowledge across the unions there has been an acknowledgement of the need to ensure that our students can meet the challenges of the 21st century, that there is a need for review and reform at senior cycle. Just recently I've announced the Delivery Board and also the Partnership Forum on which the unions are represented. That would include the ASTI and the TUI.
That's it for now. More news in an hour.
News Talk weather.
Thanks to Ryanair. Fancy Formula One this summer? Watch it live with Ryanair's low-fare flights to Barcelona, Bologna or Nice.
Blustery tonight with winds increasing to gale force in western and southern coastal areas with some damaging gusts. Showers will merge to long spells of rain. Now you're up to date on News Talk.
Your chance to win big. News Talk's Cash Machine.
Now, there's going to be a guaranteed winner of the cash machine this Friday. It's a very easy amount to remember. It is €70,000 exactly. 70,000 euro exactly. Text play to 57557. Get your entry in by 3 o'clock on Friday, and then across the Go Loud network of stations, Barry Dunn will make the call. If your phone rings, answer within 5 rings and give us the exact amount. And the amount again is €70,000 exactly. Over 18s only. Text costs €2.50. You're playing across the Go Loud networks of stations. Terms and conditions on newstalk.com.
The Football Show on Off the Ball.
With Sky. All the football you love in one place. Across Sky Sports, BT Sport and Premier Sports.
This is News Talk.
I'm prepared to do anything I can to play for my country again.
Do it then.
What about your start to the game? It wasn't bad, was it?
Why should an honest answer be a mistake?
How can a modern day manager not have a mobile phone?
Why should he?
Oh!
Evening. Football show coming at you on a Tuesday. So I'm sure plenty of you happened to catch Republic of Ireland 0 USA 2 on Saturday. Game was live on TV. Ireland play the States again. I keep saying this evening, 12:30 Irish time, Wednesday morning. you get the gist in a few hours' time. So we're going to talk to Karen Duggan, who will give us her sense of Saturday's performance, which was in the main very positive. There is the Sinead Farley story, which is extraordinary. Made her Ireland debut at the age of 33, having taken a 6-year break from football. No football. Played 20 minutes and then played an hour for Ireland, and Vera Pauw was effusive and effectively came out afterwards and said, yeah, she's going to be on the plane. And part of her story is there was a car crash, and also she made the allegations of sexual coercion against Paul Riley and stepped away from the game, and now has come out of retirement as of last year, and at the age of 33 looks like she's suddenly playing for Ireland, going to the World Cup. So a lot to talk to Karen about, and we'll do that later on in the hour. Champions League quarter-finals, first leg of course, Benfica Inter is 0-0, and then at the Etihad, second half just started. It is Tuchel versus Pep, and it's Pep who's happier of the two. Manchester City 1-0 up, Rodri with the goal on 27 minutes. We are 50 minutes on the clock. Very happy to say Mr. Pat Nevin is with us. Good evening.
Good evening. First of all, I'm going to download and listen to that Karen Duggan thing. That sounds amazing, that Karen thing that you've got coming up. I cannot wait to hear that, first of all, right? And secondly, I'm sitting watching a kind of a set-up, which I have to say the BBC have put up of the system that their Man City are playing, and it's made me laugh out loud. It's that far wrong, but it's a good game anyway. It's a good game. Never mind that. It's a good game. It's always quite complicated to work out what Pep is actually doing in a game. But now I can tell what he's doing, but it's confused the BBC.
As it often the case. I mean,
as I've said that, they've changed it.
Okay, someone in the BBC said, Nevin just called us out, fix it now. If ever there was a team, I just wish I could spend the first 10 minutes watching from the stadium as opposed to at home. It is City, week in, week out. What's he cooking up this week? So why don't you explain to us, what's Pep gone with?
Yeah, so Haaland is up front as usual, Stones right wing, Grealish left wing, and that so far
I'm with you. So far I'm with you.
Yeah. But Akanji is basically playing right back a lot of the time. Ake is left back. Diaz is central, but of course you're going to get Stones, who's decided that he's playing two positions again today.
Yeah.
He'll be playing centre midfield and centre back, and sometimes right back, and just try to pick up where the spaces are. But it's led to some confusion. Gundogan and De Bruyne spend a lot of time finding decent space there, because it's kind of complicated way of doing a simple thing. It's basically two systems, one when you lose the ball and one when you've got the ball, but also you basically flood the midfield when you possibly can. So how do you get an extra man in midfield? They used to use a left full back who would come in and do it, Zinchenko. Now they're getting, whoever's right full back or sometimes right centre back steps in, and you become a three behind it. It's kind of, it's really good. It's if you've got intelligent players, you can do it. Just certain players can't get their heads around it, and certain players aren't that good, or they aren't international class at two positions. But he's got enough players, and he's watched. I mean, he's getting Stones to do the kind of the heavy lifting, as it were, with the two positions. And Stones is a clever enough player. And you think about it, Pep has worked on Stones for years, absolutely years, and he was the main man right at the start, and he was passing it out, and he was getting caught, etc., and then he get dumped and dropped for a long period. But you just stick with Pep because if you're a good player. And Ake, I mean, I watched him obviously for years as he was developing, and he's played left back every single game for the past 5-6 games, whatever it is now. Yet he's a great central midfielder, and he's a good centre back, and that's what Pep wants. People who, when he makes a change and he adapts it, then they can adapt to it, and they all look really comfortable.
Well, it was funny, because Pep, and I'm sure Kyle Walker thanked him. Pep said, Kyle Walker couldn't do that, by the way. So it's not for everyone, as you said. It takes a lot of intelligence and technical acumen. Have City been on top? Are they deserving 1-0 winners, leaders?
No, there's not much in it. There is. I mean, the goal by Rodri is an absolute cracker. It's one of those ones where 10 seconds before he scores, you think he's going to score that. Right. when it breaks to him, he lines it up, he kind of fires it around the player and it's into the top corner, but you know what he's going to do. Maybe not 10 seconds, maybe 2 or 3 seconds before it. You think, well, that could be top corner. Oh, yes, it is. And it is a great strike. But there wasn't much in it before then. Some great chances for Haaland had a chance. I have to say, it wasn't a great game for 20 minutes, but when the goal happened, then it opened up. And one brilliant thing about Bayern are not sitting back. They're not trying to hold out and keeping the score low. No, they're Bayern Munich, they're playing. So the game's been played in pouring rain, but it is technically a very, very good game. And that usually means it's quite dull, but now it's actually stopped being quite dull and becoming technically and also as a spectator sport, it's a good game.
Okay. Couldn't help but notice that Pep Guardiola has looked at this John Stones, Zinchenko innovation and looked at Trent and said, you know what the hell, let's give it a roll.
Yeah. Yeah, but you kind of got to be able to do both of them. That's the whole idea. And everybody knows the problem with Trent is he doesn't defend. It's kind of obvious. It's not everyone jumping on the bandwagon. Even if you're a wide winger, you spend a lot of time looking around, checking, making sure where everyone is, and he just doesn't do it. And he doesn't react, and he doesn't think like a defender. So if you've been asked to go and play right back, come centre midfield player, you got to cover in. That's the whole point. You got to cover in because if you don't cover in those areas when it's needed, you're just leaving a big gap at the back. You can't be doing that against decent teams. But he's quite young. He can learn. Trent's got lots of abilities about him, and of course, what a ball for the goal that he created at the weekend there, a little nutmeg and then chip to the back post. So, we all know what his qualities are, but asking him to do those two jobs really, really well is quite a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I only watched the game back yesterday, and in the build-up to the first goal, where Xhaka has the ball, he's kind of halfway line territory. Henderson is he's jogging over to kind of close it off. It's not a threatening position. And ahead of Xhaka is Martinelli on the touchline, Alexander-Arnold and Konate inside Alexander-Arnold. So it's a nothing situation. And it's so extraordinary. I remember I hit pause and I even tweeted about it. And I'm not one to jump on the let's bash Alexander-Arnold bandwagon. But it was so interesting that instinctively, as Xhaka is about to strike the ball, and it's just very obvious by his body shape, it's going to be an inside the foot curler up the line. Konate and Martinelli, without even thinking, just like you would have done it a billion times in your career, they have both turned to face Liverpool's goal and they're running in the direction the ball's going. And Alexander-Arnold is in between them and he is just standing completely square. He almost even half takes a half a step forward, as if in some kind of, I'm going to spook Xhaka away, Xhaka even though he's 20 yards away from me. And I just hit pause and you look at the two body shapes and ball goes over Alexander-Arnold's head, and suddenly it's like routine nothing situation into Liverpool have big problems, and then the goal comes from it. And I tweeted about this. I just said, I don't understand how at 24 he's still making these decisions. And then I finished up by saying, I've just finished the 90 minutes. I think he may have also been the best player on the pitch, on the ball. So I don't know, at 24, Pat, we're starting to get into scary territory when those situations are being so badly misread, no?
You just get the feeling that he, in a perfect situation for him, he would play in a 3-4-3. He would be a wide midfielder in a 3-4-3. Come back sometimes, but you don't need to do that most of the time. You've got three at the back to cover it, and that's not your problem, mate. You get the great delivery in that area, very much the way Reece James does it. He's much, much better player in the 3-4-3, the wide man in the four. So, but his team don't play that system. So he is that player. Now, there's a whole number of things going on here. Right? Old school people used to always say he doesn't smell danger. Certain players don't smell danger. They've got blinkers on. They don't see what's behind them. They're not aware of that. They're not thinking that way. But let's give him a wee bit of credit for a wee minute. He spent most of his career, and probably his youth career, being told, get forward, get forward, get forward. That's almost certain because he's so good at that. They've probably spent so much time doing that. They've probably not spent a hell of a lot of time worrying about what's behind them. Because in most scenarios, if you are that right full-back of a four, and you push forward, well, the winger guy's going to run with you. He's not going to stand away. He's going to run with you. So unless you're playing against a clever team, if you do something wrong, like 20 yards from the opposition's box, then so what? Still got a whole pitch to get up. But cleverer teams have learned that. And then you will not always have that situation. Sometimes you will have to learn how to defend. And it honestly just feels as if he's never learned it. He's never been a natural at it. And for you, I mean, I've played in so many teams over the years, and you don't need to be a pro to know this. You look at people and go, well, it's what you said, Joe. Why are you not seeing that? I don't get why you aren't seeing that. Because I'm sure I'd have seen that when I was 13, playing. I would have seen it. I would have felt it. I'd have known. I might not have been able to stop the guy, but I'd have known where the problem was, and I've got there. So I think the training that you go through academies, if you have a specialist and really good in one area, they push you on. And, well, he's done really well. He's become an England international, and he's one of the best in the business going forward. But they've just left a big gap in his education. He shouldn't have done that. So it's unfair to him, and also he should work on it. He really should work on it. I never hear, Klopp saying, "Oh, by the way, we're really talking to him about it. We're talking about covering." We never hear him saying it. You want to hear somebody saying that, because if you say that on camera or to a newspaper or having a press conference afterwards, I promise you, the first person who's listening to that is the guy you're talking about. He's hearing that back there.
Yeah. And in his
then you'll listen.
In his post-match interview, it was put to him that goal came down your side, and again he said, "Well, look, it has to come down some side or through the middle. That's how football works, isn't it?" And I thought, no, that doesn't explain away this. I don't want to marinate in the assault on his reputation, because he gets a lot of stick and there's lots of bad defending out there. So park him for a second. For you as like an exponent to wing play, I was really curious to ask you about the build-up to, oh God, who finished it? The little scuffed kind of finish in the game. It'll come back to me. Sorry, head like a sieve. Yeah, but it started, and it's probably the piece of footage which caught your eye more. The bit of Saka movement where he comes in off the wing. Robertson slips.
Insane Robertson.
Yeah, so Robertson slips, which exacerbates it, but that Saka, that little internal run, I think it's a real maxim, and it was in the documentary, I think, where one of Arteta's pet hates is winger taking the ball square from, say, right back, as it would be in that instance, with defender up his backside, because what can you do? You're penned in, you've nowhere to go. So he likes it. He's a real, I'd say he's coached Saka those internal runs. Did you like them? Like, it was so effective. I couldn't believe how effective it was for something that looked so simple.
I was one of those players and still don't understand why others aren't. I didn't care, right or left. I had no preference to go right or left, inside or outside, none at all.
Okay.
You should be good enough with both feet. You should be balanced enough to go both ways. And you watch, the classic example is Hakim Ziyech. Yeah, good luck watching him try to get down the line, because it ain't going to happen. And there's a lot of players, Man United have got a problem with one or two there as well.
Yeah, we talked about it, yeah.
So you should be able to do both. Now, you'll have a slight preference for one, but if you've got a slight preference for either going inside or going outside, you either A, work on it, or B, just do the other one quite a lot, so it develops space a little bit. Anyway, Saka, he's been clever. He's been really clever about it. He's taken it up, and it's not that he's dummied to go inside. He's ran inside and got into a good area. That's a quite different thing. He's almost doing that, underlap on his own.
Yeah.
So it's kind of quite unusual. But then we're talking about the different systems. If you do play a 3-4-3 or something like that, if you're one of the wide wingers, you're not actually a winger. You're a wide attacker. So you go back to the Thierry Henry. He used to do that in a different kind of way with pure pace. But he used to come in that area, and then he was coming in flying in towards goals and he just looked like a left attacker as opposed to, and that's what Saka's got. He's got lots of the tricks of the trade, as a wide player, but he can also do that wide attacker thing as well. But that's one of the number of things that makes him incredibly dangerous, is that he isn't one type of player. When you know exactly the type of player and what his go-to movement is, it's kind of easier for a fullback. And Robertson thought he knew, but he didn't. And he was completely caught. He fell over. He was completely caught off guard. And of course, if you're playing against the left back and you're going to invert it and go inside, you're going into his weak foot anyway. We all know that. So that you're giving yourself a hand. The problem, of course, Liverpool had is I think what you mentioned before, the Henderson whatever weren't doing the tight blocking or the tight pushing up because they can't do it to that level anymore, or weren't doing it, and it just looked awful for the first until 2-0 and after 2-0. But I don't know how much. I don't want to buy into the Granit Xhaka tackle.
Yeah, come on, please. I don't want you to go that. I just can't. I can't swallow that.
I don't want to buy into it. I kind of wee bit do.
Right.
I don't want it. But sometimes you're in a ground, and Anfield's a particularly good ground for it. Something happens around the place, and the fans get really annoyed, and then suddenly everyone is actually throwing in more tackles, and it just the game did move. Okay, the goal made the change, the first goal, but the game did move on it. So I don't think the championship's been lost by Granit Xhaka being a bit an idiot again for a few moments, but it gave them a spark. It really, really helped. And that was the weird thing about it. You're watching football games, that game was dead, buried, done, finished, gone.
Yeah.
There was nothing there for Liverpool. They looked absolutely abject. And then suddenly the mojo was back. And it was weird that it came so quickly. Now, it probably was scoring. But there's a wee bit that also tells you, the amount of times people put in a tackle, again, it's old thinking. If the first guy puts in a tackle and the next person's up behind and the next person's up behind, when you do that suddenly, it's like it's exactly the same in rugby. It's all about the first tackle, isn't it? And the second one has to be right behind it and right behind it. See, if you do that 2 or 3 times, the opposition can fall back 20 yards. And suddenly you think, oh, this is, you've got it again. But it needs the energy, it needs the belief, it needs the hunger. Liverpool didn't seem to have the hunger, but they got the hunger when they got the anger. I like that one. I might use that.
And a final thought on Anfield. With a view to the title race, numerous pundits were at pains to say, a point at Anfield, you got to take it. But in the context of being 2-0 up, do you see it as very much 2 points dropped, and that could be very costly for Arsenal? Yeah,
it's just 2 points dropped. Yeah. I'm afraid it has to be considered in that way. If you're 2-0 up, I mean, they've gone through so much. It's been a real joy watching Arsenal recently because, they've all the problems they've had and they've overcome. They've found a way around everyone. And the problem they've struggled with there is the problem of being 2-0 up, and believing in it and working it through. But it will happen. You knew it was going to happen. Something was going to happen. It's still not out yet. I mean, Arsenal have got it in their own hands. Man City have got it in their own hands as well, it has to be said. But they've now still got it in their own hands. And if they expected to canter to the end of this with, having that cushion of points, A, they would have been kidding themselves on, but B, there is no way Arteta expected that. He knew that they were going to have this fight.
Here's a question. Why can't I be as lucky in life as Frank Lampard?
What, you mean good looking, wealthy?
Ah, man. And apparently €5 million net just for the end of the season. That was what was reported in Spain, apparently. So,
the money will mean nothing. Well, honestly, will mean nothing.
I mean, 5 million net always means something, but I take your point. What's your instinct? I mean, my thought was a bit he has done very well here, but fair enough. They have Real Madrid this week. What's your read on this? So they've kicked a touch. They don't want to make a decision. A lot of interim managers actually in the Premier League, which we'll come to in just a second, but they don't want to make a decision just yet, and they reach for Frank Lampard.
Yeah. Right. Chelsea, I'm not going to be a cheerleader for Chelsea, but I'm just trying to think of the thinking, right? The thinking is they've done it before, and it's worked quite well when they went for an interim, right? You get a little bit of a lift, and 1 or 2 players that were, unusable before suddenly become usable. The Mount hasn't been used much. Suddenly, because he's the mini Frank, he'll be usable again when he's fully fit. So you get that, number one. The 1 or 2 others who are kind of slightly left out of it, they might think, oh, I've got a chance now. I'm part of it now. He was quite well liked by most of them. I think it was 1 or 2 that he totally fallen out with.
Okay.
But the other thing is, here's the upsides of it. The downsides are he's had a tough time. He was sacked, and he was sacked from Everton, and it's not really looked that phenomenal as if you're getting, they would get a Hiddink before or something like that. Real top level sometimes. But he knows every player. just about every player there. You know, some of the new, younger ones you won't know that well, but you'll know a lot of the players. That kind of helps a wee bit when you've got a very short-term period to get everything right. He's walking in there, and the entire season isn't the next 8, 9, 10 games. It's the next game.
Yeah.
It's the next game. It's this one. So I had a wee look at it at the weekend. My suspicion at the weekend was that was all smokescreen. That was not even... I don't think he'll play that system tomorrow night against Madrid.
Right.
I don't think he'll play the personnel. I think he was trying to keep... If he... I mean, I'm guessing here. I know nothing, right? But would you be surprised if Kanté walks on that pitch? Would you be surprised if Mason Mount walks on the pitch at the Bernabeu? Would you be even totally surprised if Thiago Silva walked on that pitch? But none of them are going to play against Wolves.
No, that's fair.
And so there's a blanket thrown over that game. No, you lost 1-0, but who cares in the end? They're not going to do it in this season in the league. You want a blanket, and also you don't want to endanger anybody who's coming back from injury. So that you've got that. The other thing you've got on top of it, and this is because I'm almost taking for granted, we get the negatives, right? We all get them, right?
You picked up on that, did you?
Yeah, we all get them, right? It's just like, I'll not waste your time in that. I'm not going to play with the intelligence of our listeners or you, right? We get that Frank Lampard's a weird decision in many ways, but why did they do it? So, number one, easy decision because he knows the place, he knows the players. That kind of helps. It's short term, gives the whole place a lift, takes the pressure off the ownership, who were beginning to come under a bit of pressure, you know. But the pressure's gone now because everybody loves Frank at Chelsea Football Club, and the fact that he's actually got a number coming through. Here's the killer one, and again, it's still grasping at straws, and I will openly say it. Chelsea played against Real Madrid last season in the Bernabeu. 8 players that started that game could start tomorrow night. 8 of them. And they were 3-0 up. Now, it is, you tell me and I tell you that it's incredibly unlikely that Chelsea will beat Real Madrid over these 2 games. But football's stupid. And if you say, put a bunch of kids out there that have never done it before, you're probably going to get beat. If Frank manages to get Azpilicueta and all them back, and these guys don't think they can do it, they know they've done it. They all done it last year. Yeah. So they know. There's one other thing they've got in their favour, and it is one other thing, and it's the thing that's almost forgotten about Chelsea. By the way, I still don't think Chelsea will go through. I keep on having to underline this because Twitter will slaughter you, like I care. But look at Chelsea's goals against column. Have a look at it just now. They are 4th best goals against. There's only 3 teams better goal defence in England in the Premier League, and they are in position 1, 2 and 3. Chelsea don't lose a lot of goals. So, you know, for the fact that they're massive underdogs, they've had a stinker of a time. They've brought in a manager that didn't have a great time before and has had a bad time since, and they just look a complete mess because it's all been thrown together like a big plate of spaghetti. But there's a but, isn't there? There's a wee but in there thinking, well... Yeah. So I kind of see what they were trying to do.
Okay.
And it probably won't work. But I have to say, see if they walk out in that pitch and they've got the likes of Thiago Silva and N'Golo Kante and Kovacic, and you think, oh, right. And they don't put out a kind of frank 4-3-3 team. They put out a sensible, fairly defensive, hard to break down team. Then I think if they can be in it for the second leg, I mean, I'm covering both the games. It would be just great if they were still in it for the second leg coming to Stamford Bridge.
Yeah, for sure. I should let you know Manchester City have scored an all-important second goal. Bayern, very sloppy coming out of defence and possession. Jack Grealish, hard-working. Jack Grealish stole the ball. Quick backheel to Erling Haaland, who stood up across to the back post, and Bernardo Silva sprinted in, header. Man City 2-0 up against Bayern and on the attack again. So that is significant. I suppose the thought I had with Frank, my defining, lasting memory of his final months at Chelsea was of someone who couldn't make sense of this supposedly mishmash of a squad. He couldn't work it out. And then, like John Nash, in comes Tuchel, and sees all the numbers and vroom, makes sense of it. And now Frank Lampard has the most grotesquely oversized squad in the history of football, and it's like, of all the people in the world to come in and make sense of this. So let's see.
Another thing on top of that, when Frank was last there, you have to look at what squad he had. He'd have thought, who will I play up front today? Will I play Tammy Abraham? Will I play Werner? Will I play Havertz? Will I play Olivier Giroud? And then he'll walk in today and go, where are they all? Centre forwards.
In fairness, we're all thinking that. We're all thinking that. A quick last thought before we go, about 2-3 minutes here. So Dean Smith, I see now, has been put in as Leicester manager, interim Leicester manager. They were beaten by Bournemouth at the weekend. They are in very serious trouble, and their first game is Man City. So I was just reading on the BBC, Smith's appointment means there are 5 interim managers at Premier League clubs. Lampard at Chelsea, Christian Stellini at Spurs, Ruben Selles at Southampton, Roy Hodgson, which in fairness is working like a dream, at Crystal Palace, and Leeds boss Javi Gracia is on a, quote, flexible contract. This does fly in the face of lame duck managers, and you need to think they're there forever for the whole ecosystem to work. It's kind of an interesting development. 5 seems like a lot.
It seems a hell of a lot. In fact, it is a hell of a lot. Now, one thing, it is an unusual season because it's been so tight down that bottom end. I mean, that bottom end is ridiculous. I don't know if it's ever been this tight. So there's always panic, but there's a particular panic this season. But you got to underline, if you've got 5 interim managers and you've made, 12, 13, 14 changes, who's getting that wrong? The board the boards are getting it wrong.
Yeah.
So, and it looks as if they're making the change and people going, yeah, we wanted him out. You put him in the first place. If you didn't, you got that wrong then. You didn't stay, or else you've not stuck with a guy that you thought was the right guy because you pulled him the pressure. So the one group of people that never seem to get any stick are these boards that leave their clubs with, a management that's all over the place. That if you're at work and you do a team thing at work, which most people in their work in a team under a management, and the management changes every 20 minutes, it's no good.
No.
It's not what you want. And have a look at the top of the league. And the most of the teams at the tops of the leagues are the ones that are staying with static managers for a period of time. That bit isn't rocket science. So, there are not all that many brilliant managers, you could argue. But the one group of people that, I've always seen this phrase, and I'm sure you know about it. Fans have a go at players, it's fine. Fans have a go at manager, it's fine. Fans have a go at board, you're sacked. And that's exactly how it happens. I'm just watching it happen time and time again. Fans aren't stupid, they can see it. When they've had enough, they stop shouting at the players. And they just turn their heads and look up towards the boardroom. And they're quicker at it now, and they're not snowflakey, but they're moving quick now. They won't take any stick. Funnily enough, Chelsea are the ones that stuck it out a wee bit longer than most.
Yeah.
They were getting a bit of stock for a long time, and they stuck it out a wee bit longer, but they still didn't stick it out completely.
Man City 3, Bayern Munich 0, Erling Haaland, volley, right-footed. They're cooking. That goal was coming. I'm going to let you go, Pat, because we're out of time. You can go and watch them score what I guess will be a 4th, the way things are cooking at the moment. Enjoy the game tomorrow. We'll chat to you next week.
Look forward to it.
See you then. Pat Nevin with us on this Tuesday evening. So really good City goal. Haaland, volley, far post, right-footed. They're 3-0 up, and that third goal has really been coming. Our football show coverage brought to you by Sky. All the football you love in one place across Sky Sports, BT Sport and Premier Sports. The other game this evening between Benfica and Inter. 1-0 Inter after 78 minutes. We're talking with Karen Duggan next.
Football on Off the Ball.
With Sky. Watch every single live Premier League game this season on Sky Sports, BT Sport and Premier Sports.
This is News Talk.
Book an adventure this April with Go Breaks and explore Ireland's best-loved destinations. From the natural beauty of Kerry and Donegal to the buzz of a city break in Cork, Galway or Limerick. Find the perfect hotel from just €105 per night for 2 people sharing. Or discover our sunny new European hotel deals. From Milan to Malaga, Lanzarote to Lisbon. Go experience, go explore with Go Breaks. As recommended by News Talk. Go Breaks. T's and C's at gobreaks.ie.
Get super spring deals on Nespresso coffee machines at Harvey Norman. Stand out from the crowd with the colourful and compact Nespresso Virtuo Pop coffee machine. Or go classic with the Virtuo Next coffee machine with up to 5 cup-size options. This week, get any Nespresso Virtuo coffee machine at Harvey Norman and claim 50 free Nespresso capsules. Plus, get a free milk frother. Shop Nespresso Virtuo coffee machines from just €99, in-store or online. Super spring deals now on at Harvey Norman.